Hey, thanks for checking out The Solid Verbal. Now would be a great time to subscribe to the channel for college football content all off season long.
Dan Rubenstein.
Yeah.
Are college football games too long?
Oh, I saw this topic this morning because it's in the news.
Are they too long? And how do you feel about any of the proposals to try and make them shorter? So a little bit of context.
Give me the context. It's Greg Sankey, yes?
Basically, this is a question that stems from a tweet from a write-up that our friend Ross Dellinger over at SI.com put out earlier today. And it all stems from this growing sense, I guess, that college football games are getting a little bit too long, right? There are 4 proposals that are currently under consideration to try and shorten games. Number 1, prohibiting consecutive timeouts, i.e. icing kickers, that sort of thing. Number 2, no untimed downs at the end of first or third quarters.
Okay.
3, the clock runs after first downs, except inside of 2 minutes and a half. And 4, the clock runs on incompletions once the ball is spotted. Now, some interesting ideas there.
Yeah.
For reference, just as a reference point, another reference point, the average NFL game takes about 3 hours and 12 minutes. College football games, at least at last check, around the end of September this year, were about 20 minutes longer. 3 hours, 32 minutes, which is a long time.
Sure.
As of September, that number probably came down a little bit.
That's the standard window as well, right? The TV window. It's a noon Eastern. I mean, obviously things are staggered in different ways, but it's a noon Eastern, and then the next big window is the 3:30 Eastern.
Right, and then just as a non-football reference point, the average Major League Baseball game last season was a shade over 3 hours, 3 hours and 3 minutes. So, look, we've been hearing complaints about the length of college football games for a good long time. It seems as if there are some proposals on the table that could be recommended to a rules committee, which could be enacted at some point. But where do you stand as a father of 2, as a college football, full-time college football podcaster?
Yeah.
Obviously, as a college football fan, are games too long?
Probably, but the caveat, I tweeted this out, I was talking digitally with Andy Staples, is brag much that I know Andy Staples. I don't think it's the games. I don't think there's too much football. I don't think the football lasts too long. It's the totality of the TV broadcast. Like, with our exact rules, if there were an untelevised game for whatever reason, if this were 1998, and it was a pay-per-view Oklahoma-Kansas State game or something, my guess is we'd be talking about a football game that's closer to 2 hours and 26 minutes rather than 3 hours and 32 minutes because of commercials. The issue with football is that it's an incredibly arrhythmic sport, especially in person, right? Where the game's happening and then, there's the TV ref with the neon orange, headset and armband, sleeve, whatever, who is telling people nobody on the field until I say it's okay. It's incredibly arrhythmic, which does not make for a fun experience in person or on TV when you get the touchdown commercial, kickoff commercial, and then it's the beginning of a new drive. That has that CBS feel to it when it would be huge Alabama LSU game and it would just be commercial sandwiches all the time. It would be a buffet of commercials. And so I just think we need to rethink, with so much money pouring into these TV deals and obviously networks needing to recoup that money via commercials, let's kind of rethink how, I don't know, advertisers are charged. Maybe there are fewer advertisers and it's more of a premium because, there's only going to be 2 commercials during commercial breaks instead of 5 or something. I don't think college football fans, by and large, have a problem with 3.5-hour games per se if a majority of that is football. I think they have a problem with the a little bit of chicken fried, Applebee's on a Friday night, whatever those awful, and I know I just conflated 2 different things, a song and an Applebee's commercial.
It's okay. They run together.
Whopper, 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 blah, and like having Pitbull and having Fansville, and like it's cute for a week, and then all of a sudden you've watched more of Fansville than you have Jake Browning or whatever. And so I think it's on the TV networks who now own the sport to figure out how to make the best possible TV product. Because like you mentioned, it's one of those things where it's not necessarily that the game is too long. It's that not everybody is like us and consumes the sport the way that we do, which is 10, 12, 14 hours each Saturday. It's, I'm an Arkansas fan. I want to watch the Arkansas game, and I want to watch USC Oregon or Ohio State Michigan. And they're not sitting there for 12, 14 hours. And so people try to plan their days around the games they care about most. And if they're saying, okay, this game starts at 3:30 Eastern, dinner should be cool. And then all of a sudden it goes to overtime and it's 8 p.m. or something. It's not great. I think people like or love or are obsessed with watching football. They're just not obsessed with Applebee's commercials and the place that those things have in our life.
Yeah. One of the notions that I was sensing across social media is, well, if you're a real college football fan, it shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter how long the game is. If you like the sport, you're in it.
Well, it's like identity politics,
for a dollar,
right? Everything is identity politics. Like you have to prove that you are the most true college football fan with that kind of take. Yeah.
And I don't agree with that.
Right.
I think attention spans are shorter now than they've ever been before. I think our phones are probably in part to blame for that,
Definitely.
but that's not the only thing. I think surely if a game is good, if you've got a 51-52 thriller, it doesn't matter how long that game is. Most games aren't like that.
Right.
So there has to be a happy medium. What I found notable in the proposals that Ross laid out in his tweet and in his article, no mention of replay. No mention of replay. I mean, replay for sure has played a huge role in lengthening these games. And for as much as I'm a supporter of replay, when they have to keep going back to look at a play and then another play, it seems like it happened more often than not this past season where you had like consecutive plays being reviewed. That tends to be a little bit much. So I don't know if there is some way we can automate the whole replay thing to a greater degree to maybe knock a little bit of time off of that. One of the other things that Ross called out is that eventually they'd like to get to a system where there's a challenge type system like they've got in the NFL where maybe not everything is automatically replayed.
Right.
But coaches can challenge and we're familiar with that from the NFL. Maybe that is the next iteration of replay to try and shorten things. But look, I'm in favor of this. People are busy. The weekends for the overwhelming majority of the football-loving population, it's a time when you should be able to kick back and relax, and you don't have to work. Or if you do have to work, maybe there's a way that you can follow the game on your phone and like get enjoyment from the game. Like it's supposed to be something that we enjoy. And when it starts feeling like it is taking too long, when people stop losing or when people start losing interest in it, that to me sort of defeats the purpose. So to your point, yeah, if it's a TV product, if I think the veils are off here and we all know that college football is being run by the TV networks, then let's find a way to make it as appealing as we can. One other idea that, I know they've talked to various TV executives over the years on the topic of commercials. Let's get creative about how we do in-game advertising, right? Not everything needs to break away from the action. We got graphics. We got the 1st and 10 line can be sponsored by Wendy's. I don't know. I'm not a TV executive, but you get the point.
Yeah, well, after that kickoff, instead of going to commercial as the teams enter the field or something like that, then you have Brad Nessler say, introducing Applebee's new, chicken tinga nachos. Boy, do they look great. Look at those things. All right, let's get going. It's not the worst. It probably affects the bottom line of a bunch of, Wyden and Kennedy type places, the ad firms that are producing all of these commercials. But also, if it's a sport owned by TV networks, the onus is on them to make this the best possible TV show. And so the arrhythmic nature gets people changing the channel. Like you said, it's replay, it's commercials, it's a delay for this, a delay for that. And I think it just behooves everybody to, even if it's not a demonstrably shorter game, if it's a much more rhythmic experience, I think that's the way you capture people and keep them locked into your channel and game.
Here's a free idea.
Please.
For the TV people that are watching out there.
The big fat cats of the networks. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. That was a great voice.
Yeah.
For the people that are listening that have any stake in this game, which is most assuredly nobody, but if you are in any position of influence, we know this in the podcast world, but when we read an ad, it does better
Yeah.
than when it sort of gets cut in from somebody else. And there are reasons that you do one versus the other. We're not going to go into that.
Right.
We would encourage everybody to listen to the ads, of course. But we know from our numbers that that's what people pay most attention to. So find some way to do that. Can you get a player to read it? Can you get somebody from the team to read it? Can you get Quint Kessenich to read it on the sidelines, to do whatever ad reads you have to do? That's one way they keep people sort of engaged and not lose interest, not have people tuning away.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think priority number one for all of these networks, aside from completely destroying the sport, which has been the priority these past couple of years.
In the trend, a little bit the trend, yeah.
Is to find a way to make this a TV show that people stay locked in on. And traditional advertising has not been a super fun watch, I don't think, for a lot of people as we gravitate towards a more streaming universe that promises fewer and fewer of the visual of taking in Dr. Pepper, taking in all of these, American Family Insurance. Congrats on the free pub, Dr. Pepper.
Not
American
a sponsor
Family.
could be. Not a sponsor could be.
But yeah, I think one of those things is one of the big ideas with this is you can't rest, right? We've seen a lot of sports come and go. Like, this is the next big thing. This is going to be huge forever. And then ratings take a dip. And then they have to rethink where they broadcast and how they broadcast, right? NASCAR was the next big sport, right? You have to be forward thinking with this. You have to be 3 steps ahead with an issue. And right now, unless something, and look, if it's a rules thing, it's a rules thing. But you want to promise that you are concerned about player safety and they should have fewer plays. Great. But also, the experience needs to be. I mean, the in-person experience has suffered and the TV experience has suffered. So what does that tell us? We need to go forward and move forward as a sport, not stay where we are or look backwards. Look, if you want to eliminate replay, speaking of moving backwards, I'll listen to that conversation. I know it's going to cause a whole set of this team lost by 3. Well, this toe is clearly in bounds, dragging through the end zone for the game-winning catch that was called out of bounds or incomplete or whatever. I understand that's a whole new host of issues, but I don't know. A rhythmic football game might be enough for me as a jaded college football fan to be able to make peace with that. I'd be willing to listen to the pros and cons of eliminating replay at this point.